Hello. Welcome. It's Monday. Yay. I have this because it's fucking hot outside. So, per usual, there's a lot of bullshit happening that we will be talking about in headlines. I realized that I didn't have ads turned on, and the more ethical side of me that's like, we shouldn't be bowing to business interests was like, maybe I should leave it off. I didn't realize I and the side of me that's like, you need to pay for shit. It's like, you need to turn that on, bitch. So I did. I've set it to start an ad 20 minutes into the stream. There we go. And if I ever need to take a break, I'll use that time to serve an ad. These are the compromises we make under capitalism. Yay. Anyway, it's another day, another stream in fascist America. Welcome to whatever this is, an attempt at providing education, advocacy, and a little common sense in this digital wasteland. I'm Aubrey Devashri. Welcome to the people who are interested in creating a better world, who want to call out the bullshit. We welcome good faith discussion, robust discussion, criticism even. But to the people with ill intent, may a curse be upon you. You will receive what you give. But thank you for the people wanting to be here out of the goodness of their hearts, wanting to engage and learn and educate and advocate. Namaste. Me doing a namaste with my popsicle is maybe somewhat disrespectful. I feel like my ancestors understand. My ancestors should understand. My Indian ancestors should for sure understand. It's like 103 degrees outside. It's really insane. Pre-roll ads can deter new viewers sometimes, but I think most streamers opt for the mid-stream ads. That's what I've heard. Hello, Turbomb. Welcome. How are you doing? Hello, Linton. Welcome. Good to see you. How are you doing as well? Necessary evil. Yeah, especially as I'm trying to, I want to continue streaming. Needing some sort of income that is helpful, being able to pay for shit, not be completely broke. That would be nice, Yeah, that's what I've heard about the pre-roll ads. And so I've tried to make it so that they are spread apart a little bit more, but we'll see. You're doing good, working on some backgrounds. Ooh, yes. I've been compiling some of these things of yours. I don't have to if that's creepy. But for having a section on Culture Corner and showing some of your stuff, or if you would prefer to send me more of a portfolio of what you would like to present so it's not just me curating it, I can also do that. And all good over here, just cleaning the kitchen. Nice. Good for you. Oh, hey, you're being Mr. Dad, Mr. Mom. I don't know what the phrase is. So how did that go? Also, how did Melissa like the Hillary Duff concert? I've been very curious. I guess I could also text her. I could do that too. I should. I'll do that as well. You got the notification through Discord? Yay! Good. I've been working on that that's something that I have slowly been working on over the weekend. Discord is such a bitch, and not in like a fierce way, where there are like things like all of these like things aren't all in the same place. It's not user friendly whatsoever. And so you have to like go to all of these different places for all of these different settings. And I'm also trying to figure out like adding Carl Bot to it for like people selecting their roles. But I'm still keeping things very tight with like actually accepting people in. So now there's like a form people have to fill out. She loved it. It was so fun. Oh, and that she got to see her friends. I'm so glad. Store gonna do the products and smaller details. Ooh. Okay, I'm sharing my screen for this. Wow, this is a little bit trippy. I'm doing this like over YouTube. Once again, the lighting is so good when you draw over in the panels. I love this. Great work. I'm so stoked to see all of your updates. You had to work all day Saturday because you were on call. I mean, I'm glad you were able to find people to help take the kids. That's good. But, being an adult, it is what it is. We do what we can. And I'm sure your kids are grateful to have a place to live and sleep and have food. So, you know, having that balance. Okay, so I was going to talk about headlines today, and as we do on Mondays, I also wanted to be talking about the public lands that the Trump administration they are wanting to sell. And there was a recent Islamophobic hate crime at Valley Fair Mall that is very, local. So I want to cover that. And then, if we're able to get to it, because I follow Revolutionary Communists of America on YouTube, they have this video called "What Would a Communist Do If Elected to Office?" I mean, I think it would. It also begs the question, what kind of communist would be elected? Because, as we have learned with many other kinds of movements, it is not just about who is elected or like what kind of political affiliation, but how they act when they are there. So there we go. 8 hours of 1.5 overtime pay. Yeah, I would say so. Which I'm sure like when you're on call, there's like that balance, at least like when I've had positions of like, oh yeah, I'm like willing to like pick up hours, like not like a directly like on call position that I had, but like well, maybe it kind of was on retail of like when I worked retail. Um People being like, "Oh, if you're like someone who's more willing to pick up hours, like you can have your name as like a go-to person to call, like especially for the weekends." And it's like, "Oh, yes, I actually am getting more hours so I can get more money." Then you're like, "Ugh, I have to go in." Just that dynamic. Argentina lost the World Cup final. Yeah, I saw the very last part of this. I did not really understand what was happening, but I am glad to see Argentina lose with their national politics. Obviously, this is not like a reflection on the people, but especially with Spain, I saw posts after with them winning by saying like abolish the state of Israel or something like that. And I love that. That's great. That's good to see. We need that. So like these moments in culture It's rare, but also very gratifying to see people use them for advocacy. Yeah. All right. So before getting into the headlines, I did want to watch this episode of A Very Fatal Murder, the fake podcast by The Onion. And this is episode 8. So, in the court case of this podcaster, at first starting to cover this case of a billionaire killing his wife because he wanted to be with his mistress. And there's like just extensive evidence, and people are still not believing it. So, not that much of satire, just kind of like life, just real life, the real world. But then the podcaster eventually is like, oh, I'm going to be your lawyer in court. And so he usually is going in like into these seasons being like, I'm going to expose what's happening, and then becomes part of the problem, which I think is very apt for what can happen with a lot of these podcasts of just like the exploitation and maybe on their face like revealing something larger as an issue, but that like people are just left traumatized in their path. So calling that out as well. Fuck Argentina. The government is absolutely a reflection on the players. They've exhibited some of the most racist behavior in recent football history. Really? I haven't really been keeping up with that. I mean, clearly. But yeah, that is awful. I have heard in general, what I like with behavior with the World Cup is that there has been a lot of racism in general, especially to black players. And this is happening from two players from all over the world. So I've paid attention to that. I also saw that there were some panels on like when people were playing that were like no racism, and I was like that's gonna stop people? I mean, I can appreciate the sentiment in theory, but I don't think that's really gonna stop racism. Anyway, yeah, especially Argentina, like South America, just being constantly colonized over and over again, extracted for resources, and destabilized by Western colonial forces by putting in dictators. Argentina has been one of the biggest in experiencing some of these despots that are put into power, and a lot of rampant fascism that just seems like it can, like what we're experiencing in the US, to be honest, of like, oh, it seems like things might be getting better. And it's like, no, we're back to where we have been. That's not great. All right. Shall we get into the episode? This is also 1414. I don't know what kind of angel number that is, but there you go. For whatever
Beyond a reasonable
that
doubt.
means.
That's a phrase you hear a lot in a court of law. Kind of like objection or motion denied or I'm not asking you again, Mr. Pascal. Before a trial starts, the judge reminds the jury that the evidence must prove the defendant guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. It's the highest.
Their attempt at the complete erasure of Argentine black citizens and their culture. Yeah. It also is like, I mean, in many places all over the world, because of global anti-blackness, which a lot of the time stems from the global slave trade, that there is this guilt that people experience that they're like, oh, the answer is to erase history and human beings. It's like, no, that's not the answer. That's never been the answer. But that is fascist. That is colonial. That is extremely anti-human. So we need to call out all of that bullshit.
Of proof possible. But what does it mean? To paraphrase, it essentially means that the prosecution has to prove the defendant is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. When I think about the case against Milo Reed, there's still so much that doesn't add up. The possibility of planted evidence, the untrustworthy eyewitnesses. But I knew that in this case, I needed to go beyond a reasonable doubt. I needed to burst right through a reasonable doubt and emerge triumphant on the other side. demonstrating an undeniable doubt covering every corner of this case. I needed the jury to see Milo Reed as I saw him. And how do you know Mr. Reed?
You and him come to my food truck for tacos like 4 times a week.
So you know him pretty well. And would you say that he...
I waited a bit for this popsicle, and it's in a very precarious state. It is sliding all over the place. We'll see what happens. Hi, Deanie.
A cool, normal guy who you've never seen murder anyone?
Oh, I don't know. But based on what I've seen in this courtroom today, I think he did kill his wife.
Never mind. Next witness.
Place your hand over the Bible and repeat after me.
Mr. Reed shot off both of my hands with a laser gun. He's obviously
Next
guilty.
witness! And what is your relationship to the defendant?
I guess I'm his lawyer's paralegal.
Billionaire
technically
activities.
You're his podcaster's personal assistant, but we can talk about title stuff after all this is over.
Objection.
My character witnesses weren't painting the picture I needed, and I was getting nowhere quick. Besides, if all it took to convince a jury that Milo was innocent was saying what a great guy he was, I could have just told him that. I needed something big, something that would leave no doubt in a jury's mind that Milo was innocent. I needed the only person who could tell the true story of what really happened that fateful night. The defense
Milo?
calls Liana Choi Reed to the stand.
What? She's dead.
Oh, God.
Are they gonna do a seance?
Stunning new developments in the trial of Milo Reed.
I'm an innocent man in a guilty world.
Objection.
Milo Reed has defied his house arrest terms and is currently driving his spaceship around Los Angeles.
I will live
A spaceship?
Grab her feet.
I'm trying. That's Milo and I, a few days before Liana took the stand.
Grab both of her feet.
I'm trying. It's hard with all the microphones. I should back up. You probably have a lot of questions. Liana's supposed to be dead, right? Good. That means you've been paying attention. In the summer of 2015, after a particularly rough 7 fiscal quarters, Milo looked to expand Terrain's capabilities and founded a company called Rejuvenex, specifically designed to corner the market on bringing back the dead. Flash forward 4 years,
bringing
and
back
Milo
the
and I are
dead.
moving Liana's body, respectfully and
Hi,
carefully,
Dini.
from the hermetically sealed crime scene to Milo's Rejuvenex lab. But we're having a hard time because it's just the two of us.
No, David. This is the last straw. I'm not gonna touch that poor woman. I'm not playing God.
It's not playing God, Sydney. Plus, it's going to take 2 people to carry the body and 1 to
No,
record.
I'm out. I am done. I am not doing this anymore.
What Sydney was referring to before rudely storming out and blowing her whole career was the relatively untested process of reanimation. To this point, Rejuvenex was nothing
not
more than a
wanting to
struggling
go
side
along with
project
this.
and a drain on Milo's portfolio.
His reaction.
The closest his engineers had come to bringing someone back to life was making a dead pig bark like a dog, which when you think about it, is pretty remarkable, but it was nothing close to what we needed to do. I was certain that if Liana's reanimated body took the stand, and if it was able to talk, she'd be able to describe exactly what happened that night and who really killed her. She'd clear Milo's name once and for all. But at first, Milo wasn't so sure.
I don't know, David. What if this works and we put her on the stand and then she says I killed her?
Why would she say that?
Oh, I don't know, David. Why do you think?
I think I understood what he meant. Milo was clearly worried that the reanimation might go wrong and her brain might not work, causing her to incorrectly identify him as a killer because
He's like, because I did, and you need to be going along with this. Jeez.
confused. Come on, you didn't do it, so you have nothing to worry about.
Well, if we use a pre-programmed brain and we're confident that it will say whatever we wanted, this could work, David. I like this.
It was incredible to see the wheels in motion, the genius at work.
And plus, this will be the way to show the world that Rejuvenex isn't a failure, that I know what I'm doing. Yes, okay. We'll hook it up to our custom neural drive with a vocal transmitter.
And just like that, Milo was ready to get to work. We snuck Liana's body through the servants' district, onto the light rail, and into the Rejuvenex lab. It was here that our star witness would be reborn.
Hello, Milo Reed, CEO, David Pascal, OPR podcaster, and Liana Choi, dead body. Welcome to Rejuvenex.
Oh my god, Milo, this is amazing.
Dead
Milo
body.
scientists were busy everywhere. You could tell they hadn't slept in days, which is a sign that they clearly loved their work. While I was excited about the prospect of bringing Liana to the stand and
Dead
blown away
body.
by Rejuvenex's impressive high-tech headquarters, I still had some reservations.
Okay.
Was
it looks like
reanimation legal?
We have an ad starting in about 25 seconds. I'll keep this paused. I am going to, it should be about a minute long. I need to grab a napkin and we'll return Yeah? Ugh, I hate play nuts, but, you know, I do need the money. Anyway, see you in a bit. Okay. We're back. Wow, that was timely. Shall we continue? I mean, for those who are subscribed, you just watched an empty chair.
Is it ethical? In his official capacity as an associate producer, I sent Milo off to find out.
The process of reanimating a body, a dead one I should clarify, is complex and still evolving. But even I realize that the question of whether it can be done is separate from the question of whether it should be done.
It should not be done. It should not even be attempted.
That's Dr. Gail Fredericks, an ethicist. I sat down with her to do my due diligence and learn more about the ethical implications of bringing my dead wife back to life.
I'm doing
so what
due
you're trying to
diligence
say
that
is
I'm
Shouldn't
not
do it.
going to
I
be
don't think
listening.
anyone should. It's against the laws of nature. You've asked, and that's my answer, Mr. Reed. No. There might be some other ethicist out there who feels differently, but honestly...
might be some other ethicist who feels differently. That's all I needed to hear. Good to go, David. Ethics-wise, all good. Lady said so.
Great, let's do it. To prepare for the procedure, the body was cleaned, prepped, and reclothed in a different outfit, since the trends change so fast out here on the Best Coast.
Forceps?
Here.
How does that look?
I mean, I'm not a tech guy, but it still looks a little wobbly.
Get back in place. How about now?
Oh,
Then came time for reanimation.
listening to this while eating is really rough.
The process begins with putting the body through a very powerful electromagnetic ventilator, injecting it with stem cells, soaking it in various proprietary goos, giving it a new brain, and finally feeding it 4 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar. After a few hours of waiting and a couple 100,000 more volts of electricity, Liana was back. Well, sort of.
Liana, baby, you're alive. Hold her down. No, honey.
Holy
Not
shit.
your eyes. You're ripping out your beautiful eyes.
It became clear that our first creation was not Liana. Our second attempt didn't go much better.
Liana, you're alive again.
He kill me. He kill me. He kill me.
She was staring straight at Milo, saying this nonsense. What did it mean?
Oh no,
Well-
another monster. Get the hammer, David.
Bringing a person back to life is a knotted web. Every decision you make adds another kink to the entanglement.
Another
But sometimes the
monster
simplest
for
solution
telling
is the
the
best
truth.
one. And in the case of bringing back Liana, it was as simple as cloning her decapitated head, giving it the brain cube from one of Milo's terrain-branded real dolls, installing a voice box in its throat, downloading select parts of Liana's consciousness to a hard drive, connecting the sucker to Wi-Fi, and flipping a switch. Then we waited and waited. It was the closest thing I've ever felt to being a parent, with the birth of my daughters obviously being a close second. As I watched Liana's body on the table, the electricity pulsing
So
through her
he's
glowing
actually a
veins,
parent.
I couldn't help but be reminded of why I got into podcasting in the first place. Looking at dead bodies, solving murders, bringing the past back to life. Sydney was wrong. We weren't playing God. We were gods. And it felt incredible.
She's alive, David. She's alive.
God, and she's beautiful. She looked amazing, as always. You might remember that back in episode 4, I had to let myself fall in love with Liana in order to get into Milo's mental state. I did it purely for journalistic purposes, of course,
Of
but
course. Yeah, that's what's happening. What the fuck?
It got busy after the trial started, and it seems I may have forgotten to fall out of love with her. Love. It's a funny thing. Her life returned slowly but deliberately. First a tiny flinch of the eyelid, then the fingers, toes, and ankles. And then she sat up. I watched with awe as Milo embraced her. It was the happiest I'd seen him since we went snorkeling in the Mediterranean last week and he saw a spotted weaver.
Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. I thought I was going to have to shut down Rejuvenex for good.
The love of his life was
He's
back.
also supposed to
But
be
as an
on
attorney,
house
I'd sworn an
arrest,
oath
by
to
the
uphold
way.
the laws of the state of California. They couldn't be together. In order to prevent witness tampering, I took Liana back to the hermetically sealed crime scene, the laundry facility, and the servants' quarters. You'll be safe here, Liana.
Me, Liana.
Yes, you, Liana. Me, David Pascal, award-nominated writer, reporter, producer. Liana Choi Reed was as alive as me, or Milo, or you. No longer a victim, Liana had been touched by the hands of the divine. She was a living masterpiece. The defense finally had its star witness.
This episode of A Very Fatal Murder is brought to you by Rejuvenex. It works. It finally works. Starting this summer, you too can be reanimated with our groundbreaking technology. If you're dead, that is. Full reanimation packages start at $500,000. But if that's out of your price range, consider one of our lower tier packages. Send us your dead loved one, and for 18 monthly installments of $1,500, we'll get just their legs or arms working again. Rejuvenex. Because death is just the beginning.
Oh.
The defense would like to call a final witness to the stand.
Once again, you cannot call yourself
Yikes.
Mr. Pascal.
I know, Your Honor, I know. The defense calls Liana Choi Reed to the stand.
That's her! That's Liana, my baby!
We had done it. We brought in the one person who could tell the truth about exactly what had happened on the night of January 4th. The one person who could clear Milo's name for good. And the room was stunned.
What have you done? What have you done to her? What have you done to my baby?
Objection, Your Honor. This is against the laws of nature.
This is quite unusual.
Your Honor, I don't know what they've done here, but it's obviously tampering with evidence and quite possibly an affront to God?
The prosecution's argument was weak. We were gods, so it wasn't like we were going to affront ourselves.
Let me have my baby. Please, God, stop the trial.
Order! Defense, proceed.
Aw,
I don't know if it...
that's her mom. It's like, what are you doing to her? Yeah, it is an affront to God. Not like I believe in God. But also, I do like the God complex that they're highlighting of billionaires, the capitalist class, the 1%, people who just have so much power and money that they don't have anything better to do but be evil, you know?
Astonishment of seeing Liana on the stand or Milo's generous donation to her re-election campaign, but Judge Nazarian was finally starting to act more fairly towards our case. Everything was going according to plan. I was prepared for my biggest moment in litigation and in podcasting. Please state your name for the record.
I am the Choi Reed.
And if I may ask, Mrs. Choi Reed, what is your relationship to the defendant, Milo Reed?
I am the product of man.
I am the product of man. Even after death, Liana was still using her platform to discuss the plight of the modern American woman. She was incredible, the perfect witness. Until... Liana, were you murdered the night of January 4th?
Yes, I was destroyed.
Do you know who did it?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
This is amazing. Well, 2 questions. Who did it? And can you confirm that it was in fact not the defendant, Milo Reed?
Objection, leading the witness.
Overruled.
And that's when things got ugly.
He killed me. He killed me. Milo. His name is Milo. I was destroyed by Milo.
She was spinning violently at the waist, an apparent glitch we hadn't caught or prepared for. No one could control her. Or maybe I should say, no one could control it.
Liana, calm down.
A robot?
Stop spinning.
It's a robot?
I am a product of the Milo Reed Rejuvenex Corporation.
I am the product. I am the
life,
The caption
though
thought
it
it
can
said
be restored.
cheering. People were screaming and saying please. They were like begging. That was not laughter.
Clever innovation is fragile. If you drop it or bump it into something, it could break right in front of you, like a vase or a delicate glass picture frame. I thought that my star witness would win the whole case for Milo. Instead, she had implicated him in her murder, and then her brand new head exploded right in front of the jury. Would my entire case explode in front of them too? And what about my dreams of legal fame, this podcast? Or, after death, reanimation, and death again, could there be a new stage in the cycle? Redemption. Next time on A Very Fatal Murder.
I'm pleased to bring you, for the first time since 1968, Robert Kennedy.
Bailiff, remove that pig from the courtroom. We, the jury, find the defendant.
Oh shit. This episode of A Very Fatal Murder was brought to you by the Rejuvenex Corporation and Craftsman Hammers. Additional reporting for this episode provided by Milo Reed. And remember, for tickets to a very special live taping of A Very Fatal Murder, visit our website. This is really exciting. We're going to be recording live from inside Courtroom 9C. Prices start at just $65, and for an extra $50, you'll get VIP access inside the jury box. So don't miss out. Get your tickets for A Very Fatal Murder live
jury
today.
Box. Yeah, I'm sure the judge will love that.
Reading. It's like listening, but with your eyes. And if you subscribe to The Onion right now, you'll receive 12 monthly issues of our award-winning newspaper to listen to with your very own eyes. Go to membership.theonion.com now to hear more.
All right. What is this? Drake is only 3019. We don't care. We don't care about Drake. All right. Is this the final episode? Episode 9? Maybe we will watch it tomorrow. Okay. Shall we get into headlines? This is from Democracy Now! Let's see what Amy Goodman has to say.
Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. The United States is continuing to strike Iran for a 9th straight day after 2 U.S. service members from Hawaii and Texas were killed in an Iranian air attack on a base in Jordan. A 3rd soldier was killed in northern Iraq during a controlled detonation of a downed Iranian drone. On Saturday, the U.S. struck a water desalinization plant in the village of Banji, disrupting drinking water for about 10,000 people in nearly 24 villages in southern Iran. According to Dropsite News, U.S. attacks have also targeted 9 bridges, 2 airports, a railroad junction, and a road tunnel since Wednesday. And the International Atomic Energy Agency is looking into reports of an attack on the construction site of a planned nuclear power plant in Darkovin. Over the weekend, the State Department issued a warning to Americans abroad, calling on them to remain cautious. This comes as Axios reports the U.S. is sending dozens of refueling planes to Israel ahead of increased military operations against Iran. Iranian authorities report U.S. attacks.
Can we see why the U.S. is so aligned with Israel's interests? This is what the aircraft carrier looks like, of being an outpost for imperialism. This is something that many people have said, that the whole existence of Israel to begin with started because of, the British colonizing Palestine, and how then after World War II, it was decided without Palestinians, and, when it pertains to their lives and land and livelihoods, that it would be a place for Jewish people to have a national state, an ethno-state, ethno-religious state. And this is not an accident. Western powers have always had an interest in being involved in this colonial extraction. They share in this guilt. There is a reason why Western nations Western white nations especially have been so reluctant to come out and condemn Israel. It's because there is this proximity to whiteness and also this colonial project that they have a direct hand in and also want to benefit from. The NSPM7 and the International Terror Conference. Yup, the fascists are shaking in their boots. Yeah, it's like, especially as there is more global solidarity, like even in the US, it's been pretty shocking to see the tide turn against Israel. And except for like boomers, really. But even then, some of them are changing their minds. But there are some people, especially the ones involved in like Zionism, where they're religiously, politically involved in that way. It really is shocking to see. And this is great, obviously, because we need fascists to be scared. We need colonizers to be scared of our collective solidarity and liberation and what we will do for liberation. But also, this is when oppressive forces are at their most violent and when they are willing to go to even more extreme measures to maintain their power. So we're seeing that with the Trump administration in the US, of them cracking down even more violently, of them talking about openly that elections won't be fair, that they will most likely be a violent affair. That is what I am guessing will happen. I think there are people that are being much too optimistic and being like, oh, let's hope they show some restraint. Yeah. Do you think they've shown any sort of restraint so far? No. So this is what we need to be preparing ourselves for, that they will go to any lengths to maintain their power, and that the US, especially when it comes to Israel and this war that is immoral, unethical, illegal, but like what even is illegal, like according to like so-called like unethical legal like laws, that this will be happening even more with Iran. 65 plus countries in attendance at the far left terror event. The state threats bill over here makes a whole lot of sense in conjunction with that. Yeah, I think that's a really great connection that you made. That I honestly wouldn't be surprised if we see bills like this popping up in all of the countries that attended this fuckery, that they're showing solidarity amongst their own, the ruling class, the colonizing ruling class, the capitalist class that is global in nature, and that we will not see much pushback from nation states and their leaders against what the US is doing to Iran because of things like that. That they are understanding, like, oh, I want to be on the side of empire, even though it's a falling empire, that they are cracking down and thinking that they're going to keep their power that way by showing solidarity. And like, sadly, it is effective, but also we have a fuck ton of people and we actually care about people on our side. And this is what we have to hold on to, because things are very bleak right now. And just sending solidarity and safety to the people of Iran, just this endless bloodthirst by the fascists in power, it just is disgusting.
Far this month have killed at least 41 people and wounded more than 400 others. This is the advisor to Iran's supreme leader.
If in the next 2 or 3 days the Americans continue the war, we will enter a phase of complete offense and destruction. Should they try to seize any part of our territory, we might enter that same phase of offense, abandoning our defensive posture, abandoning our deterrence and reciprocal measures.
In Gaza, Israeli strikes in Gaza City on Saturday killed at least 9 Palestinians, including 3 children, according to local health officials. Separately, an Israeli attack on a tent sheltering displaced families in southern Gaza killed at least 1 Palestinian and wounded several others Sunday night. This is Huda Alaham, whose building was destroyed in an Israeli strike.
Our message to the world is to stop this war on us. We can't stand it. We don't have anything. We can't find food to eat. Why are they doing this? We haven't done anything. We were staying safely in our homes. We want to eat. We want to live like everyone else.
Israeli attacks have killed more than 1,100 Palestinians in Gaza since October, when Israel agreed to a U.S.-brokered so-called ceasefire. In the occupied West Bank, dozens of Israeli settlers stormed a Palestinian village near the southern town of Yatta on Sunday, setting fire to a mosque and buildings. Footage obtained by Reuters showed the settlers attacking a Palestinian home, starting fires near the property and spraying graffiti on its walls. Eyewitnesses called it a coordinated attack.
It was an attack on the entire village. The settlers came from the nearby settlement of Habat Maon. They were around 40 settlers. 6 were attacking here. They directly attacked this house to prevent anyone from getting out of the house, and the others went towards the mosque, and they tried to set fire to the mosque.
Elsewhere, Israeli settlers deliberately set fire to Palestinian farmland and olive groves in the village of Tel, south of Nablus. In June, Amnesty International accused Israel's government of carrying out a campaign of ethnic cleansing in the occupied West Bank amidst a steep rise of state-backed violence and forced displacements by Israeli settlers. Israel's revoked the protected status of Nile crocodiles to pave the way for a new prison modeled after the Trump administration's so-called Alligator Alcatraz ice jail in the Florida Everglades. The proposal by Israel's far-right National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir would see Palestinians held in a prison surrounded by a crocodile-infested moat. Israeli researcher and political commentator Shail Ben Ephraim said on X, quote, "The fact that Israel's trying to surround a prison with crocodiles tells you all you need to know about these camps, which are designed to torture, rape, and murder Palestinians often held as hostages without charges," unquote. In Ukraine, Russia launched one of its largest ballistic missile attacks on the capital, Kyiv, since the start of the war, leaving at least 6 people dead and dozens injured. 10 people were also killed in a Russian strike near the Ukrainian port city of Odessa. In response, Ukraine targeted Moscow with 400...
Can't really say too much on Iran. Just all of this is so connected. Since last Monday, you have to be careful when even candidly discussing events. I know. And the thing that's so frustrating is that this is the intention, especially people who are committed advocates. And this is what they're hoping for, is this chilling effect so that we aren't talking about things. And it just is evil. It's evil of the complete disregard for humanity, of specifically like it being racially motivated, all of this, what's happening with Iran, but also what's happening to Palestine and Palestinians, Iranians, of just people who have been racialized and colonized, and the Islamophobia. It just is all so connected that like there just aren't words to describe like the human devastation. And for them to be looking at that Alligator Alcatraz that was shut down by indigenous tribes, by the way, that was hard won, and it is hardly being talked about in the news. And I actually have something that I want to go over concerning that, but it just is abominable that, like, on top of everything else happening to Palestinians, this is what they're pursuing too. You read up on the specifics. Gotta speak like a professional journalist on certain topics. I know, that's how I feel as well, especially with recent events. I mean, I know it's not like you're experiencing in the UK, but we have an ad. I guess I should have announced that. Whoops. So we have an ad going for 54 seconds. Ugh, I hate this. I hate this already. It makes me feel icky. But, which, like, isn't to say that, like, it's a necessity when we are living in capitalism for so many people, for so many streamers. And it really is a luxury for most people to, not most, but for some streamers to not have to rely on ad revenue. I can still say fuck Israel, fuck the US, free Palestine. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Okay, the ad's going to end in 10 seconds. So, there we go. Yeah, saying what we can while we can. Speech is not free. Speech has never been free for all. So we have to continually frame it in that way, in my mind. Like, speak while speech is free. Because it is certainly not afforded to everyone, especially when you experience intersections of marginalization. And also, the more fascist and colonial the nation state that you live in, that also is not an accident in cracking down on free speech.
Drones wounding 2 people, setting buildings ablaze. This is a Kyiv resident whose apartment was damaged in a Russian attack.
There was the first strike. The building shook. Then it was quiet for a while because the front doors had been blown off, here in the hallway. Then came the second strike, and then there was a huge blast. We heard it, the building started shaking, and I could hear everything flying around.
A Colorado prison guard faces multiple charges, including attempted murder, after he allegedly shot a protester outside the for-profit ICE jail where he works. Witnesses say 42-year-old Brandon Booth responded to demonstrations last Thursday outside the GEO Group's Aurora ICE Processing Center by firing a single shot at protesters, then fleeing the scene. The bullet struck 21-year-old Emma Landis in the heel, sending her to the hospital. In the wake of the shooting, Booth's former sister-in-law told the Denver Post Booth was, quote, not a good person at all, unquote.
The fact that, like, from here, she's still there. Like, I'm guessing this is from her injury, or maybe she is disabled before this, but speaking out of, like, this is what when I say, like, there are people who are more at risk than others in experiencing violence, but we all, especially from fascists and colonizers, but we all are at risk, whether people want to admit it or not, or whether they feel the immediate effects right now or not. But there are some people that are taking on more risk by being in places and having themselves be in the way of bodily harm. And this is what it takes. But also, like, we need to be strategic about how we are doing this as well. Of, like, when we have protests, having demands, having a sense of pressure that is applied so that these oppressive forces are worried about them not meeting our demands. That is what it takes. But especially to the leftists that are saying, like, protests don't have as much power as what they used to, I think it comes back to demands. That's what it is. And also, if people are wanting the sanction of a police presence there, we should not have all of these permits for police in order to have a protest, because otherwise it's just like yelling loudly and being angry without having more pressure that is being applied by the outside to these forces. But it shows that the oppressive forces that exist are afraid of protests still. So whether people want to, like, we can argue about the effectiveness or the effectiveness or not, but like, and to what extent. Wow, I'm having a hard time speaking today. But it doesn't mean that they aren't afraid of seeing people out in the open opposing what they are doing. These people who represent and fight for the ruling class. Burnham has taken over now. He appointed the former Secretary of Defense as his chancellor. Oh my god. The guy who resigned because kid starvers' military budget increases weren't enough. As good an indicator as any of the direction this slimy fuck is going to go. Ugh. Typo. I didn't even notice. There was a typo in there. I understood what you're talking about. That's what's so frustrating, is that it's like, oh, like Kid Starver, he is out of power. That seems like a good thing. But then when he's replaced by this idiot and all of his cronies, that it's like, it can get worse, and often does, before there is more of a mass shift among the populace and saying, like, we need to show an even more of a united front against what's happening. And he kept Shaban Mahmoud in her position. Yeah. One of the most evil people. Yeah. Talk about tokenizing people, the internalizing of these oppressive systems, and using them to step on the necks of other people. It just is deplorable. But sadly, yeah, like what's been happening in the US, you all are experiencing at an alarmingly increasing rate in the UK. Sending you solidarity and care. Please take care of yourself.
Sister-in-law told the Denver Post Booth was, quote, not a good person at all, unquote. She said he'd previously slammed her into a wall, giving her a concussion, adding, quote, this is not a person who does the right thing or respects boundaries, especially of women and kids, she said.
Oh my God.
Meanwhile, records show the ICE agent behind the fatal shooting of 25-year-old.
So, like, people that have known him, like, he's a bad person and doesn't respect the boundaries of women and kids. I wonder what kind of person that is. Someone who likes working at an ICE detention center. What the fuck does that mean? They clearly do not respect human beings. David Lammy got the chopping block. He was one of the most depraved Zionists in government, but he was clearly just a sacrificial lamb. Oh, interesting. I didn't know that. Also, the fact, like, I saw Automod blocked the term Zionist. That shows where we're at. It really is frightening. But seeing how all of this is so connected, these people in the ruling class that are feeling very threatened by their power being questioned, that the majority of people in the world can see what is happening in Palestine, can see the crimes of Israel, can see the crimes of the US, can understand colonialism and extraction. I mean, it would be nice to have even more class consciousness and decolonizing of our minds and decolonizing policy, especially, but like, it's because of people like those shits that you're describing that are kept in power, and that are kept in power in the US, like all over in these nation states, like how there are even more protests happening in India. I wonder if she's going to cover this, where there are more people actually talking about like the talking about global warming and climate change, that like India, Southeast Asia is one of like the first places to be experiencing, not one of the first, we're all experiencing this globally, but that many places in Southeast Asia are experiencing these conditions most intensely, and that there is this capitalist 1% crackdown on people if we question the colonial greed and extraction that like has to be confronted. But it just is so disheartening where we're at globally and why it can feel like it's the end of the world. Like, it feels like the world is literally on fire. Like, and in many places it is, as we have been talking about over the weeks of so many wildfires and shit. But if you listen to Burnham's words, you think he was somewhat left, but his actions tell the same old story. Yeah, that's why we need to constantly question people when they may sound like they say good things. They may say things that's like, oh, on its face, that sounds good. Of like the Graham Plattner of it all, of like him being one of the like first really outspoken people. I mean, not one of the first, but like that was highlighted because he's a white man in talking about Palestinian liberation. I don't think he even used those terms, but like it being this smokescreen for many people on the left and not seeing his background and how we shouldn't be trusting someone who worked as a mercenary for BlackRock. That it's like, just because people say nice things, it doesn't mean like we have to be looking at their history. What have they done? Have they just had a history of exploiting people? How long have they been saying this? And it doesn't mean that like people aren't dynamic or people can't change, but many people, especially people who have experienced the negative effects of colonization, who have experienced genocide, of chattel slavery, of multiple intersections of marginalization, are more able to see these red flags of saying like, no, we probably shouldn't trust this person because like he most likely like killed a lot of children. It's like we shouldn't need proof of this. But like, yeah, like holding on one hand the fact that people can change and people are dynamic while also confronting the fact that we need to be distrustful of people until they show and can have a track record that they are working in a direction that proves otherwise. So many people are going to get caught up in that BS, although I'm not sure what electorally at least would be any better. I've become so disillusioned with the Greens. That's also what I've heard from people in the UK of like, especially with the Green Party getting more momentum, that and with more prominent figures getting more notoriety and maybe a little more power, even if it is like not within like the halls of power, especially like even if it's just like public opinion, I mean not just, but and going up against the system, is that like people can often, like when we're excited about certain figures, like why we shouldn't be putting people up for like put up as these saviors for us, because that's so dangerous. A lot of the time they will make small concessions that we don't notice, of like Zoran Mamdani making concessions along the way, and how like if you like a politician, like that means you should be more likely to hold them accountable, not just excuse their bad behavior because, or not even bad behavior, but also bad policy, and them willing to cede ground on, or concede ground on human rights, especially, that is very dangerous. That like we need to be more likely to hold them accountable than, instead of just saying that they're better than the opposing side. And it's like, that should not be the bar. Hello? The bar is in hell. like quite literally these days, especially of like, so we don't want to be like the colonizer fascists and like the people who are like willing to do whatever it takes to get into power. That is not what we should be comparing to. The Greens have a nice face, but the Zionism is very much present behind the scenes, and their liberal tendencies make my stomach churn. I still hold my nose and vote for them probably, but if the Zionism is racism bill gets filibustered, I heard about this bill at the autumn conference, I'm out. Yeah. Yeah, it really just highlights the nefarious nature of these larger political systems that are built off of oppressing people, and how it's not meant to actually have people power. It is meant to give us the illusion of having a say in society, and it just is so disheartening, but why we need to be engaged in other ways too, of like what you were saying, like still voting, because like that still has some impact on our material conditions, but like having this release valve, but also like working practically towards long-term change with other ways of organizing, which it can be very difficult in being like, especially like with labor organizing. This is often like one of the most effective ways to move the needle, which is why the powers that be are constantly disempowering unions, engaging in union busting, trying to get rid of collective bargaining power, but also it takes a long time. And this is where there are many anarchists on the left that are like, we don't have time for all of this. Like, the world is on fire now. And so, like, engaging in ways that people are, like, still safe and strategic, but are direct, like with direct action, in order to have some sort of thing, like any sort of movement that we can hold on to, that we should be trying to engage in. It is a democratically ran party, so I do have some optimism the membership will be able to purge those elements. I hope so. Yeah, I really hope so. I think that's a good way to be looking at it, of acknowledging where things are falling short, because just like turning a blind eye to red flags and what's going on, this is where it falls into the hands of the fascists, where people just want to be content with having small victories. And I mean, we have to take these small victories, but if it is not for the collective, especially like what you were saying of this doubling down on Zionism, when it's like, this is part of the issue of like the government wanting, and the people who run it wanting people to be okay with them doing whatever to maintain and support colonial control and genocide and ethnic cleansing while they do whatever they want. And it's like, so if they're allowing that to happen, then what are they allowing to happen to us in these nation states that we either don't see or that like we don't have control over? It's very frightening. The power is in the membership and voter base. They keep up or get left behind. Your party may be crippled, but we can build it back up as an alternative. Honestly, I think that's probably the best path I'll take in terms of party membership going forward. Interesting. Yeah, you need to let me know about the updates there, because like I just know some of the things that I've read about. I will admit I am still like deeply ignorant about many things happening in the world at large, but like in UK politics. So yeah, I'm interested to see how that progresses and what your take is on that. But yeah, it's a bleak situation all around. Okay, so we're going to be having another ad in about 30 seconds. I'm going to keep this playing, and for subscribers, you'll be able to keep watching with me.
Johann Sebastian Duran Guerrero once told a court a head injury had left him with impaired.
Jeremy Corbyn is so good. I've not got nearly as many critiques of him as I do the Greens. It's just a shame how the wider party is all around him. Yeah, I need to be more familiarized with Jeremy Corbyn's policies, but it does seem like there is a positive difference from some of the things that I've heard about with, someone like Zach Plansky. Yeah. Especially with Nigel Garbage, how he is getting more power. It's this is he's looking at the US and Israel aspirationally and is oh yeah, we should be doing this where we are and cracking down on immigration, whatever that means, which just is ethnic cleansing and brutalizing immigrants of color specifically. But this keeps happening, clearly, because they aren't being stopped and no one is being held accountable in ICE. And how we're talking about earlier, or Amy was talking about earlier. Welcome back. Ad break done. Amy Goodman was talking about earlier the settler violence. This is related. This is all related. Why do you think that ICE uses Palantir and AI facial recognition and these databases that are used by the IDF? Why do you think they look so similar in how they approach people and how they treat people and how the treatment when people are in these concentration camps, when they are imprisoned, that they are treated in such an abominable, dehumanizing, disgusting way? That it's all connected of the weapons that are used in Israel that come from or are shipped by the US, that it's all related to justify this colonial ethnic cleansing. That's how it needs to be framed. This particular situation is very haunting to me, of seeing this ICE officer, this ICE Gestapo talking to this one of after him shooting someone in the head, shooting Johann Sebastian in the head when his wife was in the car, when his daughter was in the car, that is so evil. The behavior is so evil, but watching this exchange where he hands him a water bottle, I was this reminds me of the times when Nazis would be doing pogroms and they would be shooting people, and then after they'd be oh, that was so hard for us, and then would be passing around drinks because they have to continue with the brainwashing and desensitizing and be oh, we're actually the victims. That's what this reminds me of, because is there really any difference?
Into functioning and memory, David Briette filed a lawsuit against the Maine community college system in late 2023, alleging post-concussive injuries after a steel beam fell on his head during a firefighting training course. Just 2 years later, Briette went to work as an ICE officer, despite his injury and his documented history of domestic violence against 2 previous wives and his daughters. He's an Afghan war vet. The far-right social media...
See? Do you see how all of this is related? Someone who is in law enforcement. The bar should have been a little heavier. Hello. oh my God, was also in Afghanistan, who then is like, oh, rather than being like, oh, the system is the problem because I got injured during this training. Instead, he's like, I'm going to continue working for the system because all I know how to do is be violent. Like, yeah, this is also the issue of the system not viewing people, but as assets, as they say, with law enforcement and soldiers and ICE agents, that it's like they are not viewed as people. And so, like, they also are hurt by the system, but often do not see it that way because they feel like a modicum of power and want to take it out on people. That's like, it is bringing in abusive, evil, violent people. And we have to see the connection. Like, this whole story of, like, you would hope that situation of like, oh, this happened to you during training, they probably didn't do shit. That's like, yeah, you think you would be angry at the system? No. Instead, you're going to be angry at the people around you, like your wives and daughters and your partners and immigrants. That's like, there really is, like, it really is a delusion. White supremacy. They view them as subhuman. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like there has to be all of these levels of dehumanization that is shared, as we are seeing again, like that being connected with women and children and with immigrants and people of color, people with disabilities, most likely. Like, he has a disability. He has a disability, but he probably does not view it that way. And also that probably makes him more likely, like, setting aside the like traumatic brain injury of it all, how that could make people more violent, of like him probably internalizing shit and being like, oh, he doesn't think of himself as having a disability, and then is wanting to prove himself as being more manly or whatever the fuck and be more violent. That's just like, there really is not hope for certain people, and why we need to be framing this as fascist colonial violence, because like it is this brainwashing and intentional dehumanization built off of this delusion of human hierarchy that, like, while we can hold on one hand that people have the capacity to change, that there are certain people who are determined to not change, and that it is not worth our time to try to convince them otherwise, that like we have to be strategic about how we are going about things. And like, me saying this as if I have like some sort of plan because I don't, but I think this is something that comes up a lot within liberal spheres of like, well, like there's some people that can be deprogrammed, or we should try to deprogram them. And it's like, some people just can't be because they aren't willing to be. And I know this from growing up in Mormonism and having people who have been close to me that they refuse to engage in this manner. And it's like, if they are hurting people, if we are being hurt in the process, like it just is not worth our time if they are not listening, and that we have to confront the systems that they are being brainwashed by rather than like the individuals, because it's not about even like getting them on our side. There's this like endless sympathy and desire to have people to want to switch sides, which like if people did somehow, that would be nice. But also understanding that like there are certain people that are not willing to change, and it also has to be confronted that like messengers matter. Of like, there is someone who might be more likely to convince that dude who like was a former police officer or something, who was a white guy, who's someone he actually looks up to. Not like, we shouldn't be expecting all people to be like, oh, like maybe I can convince them, because that's also this like white liberal idea of like, we have to deprogram people and like try to try to get numbers that way. And it's like, no, we have plenty of numbers, but we have a lot of people that are like, we're disorganized, and we also have a hard time agreeing on things, which like that doesn't necessarily have to be like a negative thing if we value diversity of thought, but also acknowledging that like it's very rare to find bravery within people. And like true bravery when it means standing up and taking on risk, especially when it is not just expected, that we need to be showing more bravery in being willing to take on bodily harm when it comes to standing up to these oppressive systems, because having any sort of change doesn't come without a cost. And this is something I've seen, especially on social media more recently, particularly Black queer women, Black trans women, talking and saying like we can't just be satisfied in understanding that there are certain people who take on more risk just by existing, or that this is a reason that motivates people to get into organizing in the first place. Of like, we can't just be satisfied in viewing people as collateral damage, that it is this deeply bigoted way to be viewing revolutionary change and expecting other people to be rising up and standing up, when like it lessens all of our risk when we do it as a collective. I'm like, I don't claim to understand everything or like have all the answers, but it just is, I don't even know where I'm going with this rant. It just is so frustrating to see and feel these effects, and see how still there are so many people that just don't give a fuck. Or even like in Utah, like we were talking about this over the weekend, of there are some people that only care about the public lands being sold because they like hiking, or they only care because they like taking pictures. They don't care about like what is happening with ICE. And that is just like, what do you even do with that? Like, how can you even talk to people, or you can't organize with people like this, or like I can't. And I think in the past I have tried at times in being like, oh, maybe I can try to convince someone. And it's like, if people are not willing to actually engage in a good faith discussion, or engage in critical thinking, or not center themselves for like one fucking second, like it has to be someone else, you know, of like understanding where to put our energy is really important in like maintaining this desire to keep resisting. Anyway, that's my long rant. I don't know where that went, or if that even made sense. But there you go.
Influencers Andrew and Tristan Tate have been arrested in Miami after British authorities issued new...
Oh yeah, this is great. This is some good news, actually. I've had some success, but only ever engage with people who are actually listening. I know it's been cool to hear you talk about some of these examples, especially with like how you were saying, encountering some reactionary people, and yeah, of like using moments as teaching moments and ways to like help people question what is going on, or like questioning their views. I think especially like from what I know of you as well, that you go about it in a way that is very intentional and strategic, and that is also just like incredibly important. Like, thank you for doing that. I do this when I can agree. I do this when I feel like there is a genuine interest in actually wanting to have a good faith exchange. Otherwise, like, there isn't anywhere to go. But this is good to see. These shitheads being arrested. Always glad to see that. Especially when they have evaded this for so long. But, like, sadly, we should not be holding our breath for them to, like, have any sort of serious consequences for what they have done. Especially with the current regime, like Barron Trump being friends with the Tate brothers. We need to be calling that out too.
And sex trafficking charges against the brothers. The United Kingdom's Crown Prosecution Service announced the charges Saturday.
38 new charges in total have now been authorised against Andrew and Tristan Tate, bringing the total number of charges faced to 59. The charges relate to 7 victims, spanning a period from 2010 to 2017.
I've never seen a cravat like this before.
Make it clear, there is no place for male violence against women and girls in our society, and we will continue to work tirelessly to support victims and investigate all reports made to us.
Andrew and Tristan Tate are dual British U.S. citizens prominent in the far-right, hyper-masculine online community known.
If it's clear someone hasn't found their answers, or it looks like they're doubting them, it's just meticulous battering them with contradictions until it clicks. I mean, I think I would love to, witness you do this and take some notes. I think it's been very effective from what I hear of these situations that you've talked about. And like there is a lot of power in that, of doing it in a way that, and takes a lot of like emotional maturity, I feel, of like doing it in a way that makes it so they aren't immediately putting up walls, but being able to hone in on where those weaknesses are, like where those doubts are in their arguments or worldviews.
As the manosphere.
It's admirable.
They previously lived in Romania, where in 2023, prosecutors filed a criminal indictment against them on charges including violence, rape, and human trafficking. Despite the charges, they were freed from travel restrictions in Romania earlier this year after White House officials took an interest in their case.
Yeah, because of the White House. So this is why we should not be holding our breath and can be expecting, most likely, for the White House to be interfering once again. And how interesting that the Trump family, they're so invested in their pedophilic trafficking friends, these abusers and rapists, that, like, seems like this is an issue. Seems like this is a pattern of behavior that they have. Mind you, there hasn't been many cases of it, but the couple of successes were nice. I love that too. But also I think like you understanding and having the knowledge of like which cases are even viable to begin with. You know, that like they can be few and far between, but like when someone is showing genuine interest, like I think that's great.
Burnham takes over as the United Kingdom's next prime minister, succeeding Keir Starmer. Burnham is Britain's 7th prime minister in a decade. He's the former mayor of Manchester, considered to be more left-leaning than Starmer. Starmer was forced to step down from office after members of his Labour Party called on him to resign after the party's huge losses in Britain's local elections. Millions of people across North America
just be a savvier enemy because he can say things that sound nice.
Of hazardous
like
air
what you were
pollution
saying,
as nearly
Linton.
1,000 active wildfires continue to rage in Canada. Hazardous air quality alerts are once again in effect today for major cities, including Chicago, Detroit, Columbus, and Minneapolis. Here in New York, air quality's improved, at least for now, following what officials are calling the second worst smoke event in New York City's modern history. On Friday, President Trump blamed Canada, threatened to impose new tariffs on Canada over the record levels of hazardous air. We'll have more on this story later in the broadcast. In Maine, former state lawmaker Troy Jackson has emerged as a front-runner to replace Graham Plattner as the Democratic Party's nominee to challenge Republican Senator Susan Collins in November's midterm elections. Over the weekend, Jackson's campaign got a boost when several rivals withdrew from the race. Meanwhile, Jackson received broad support in county-level meetings of the Maine Democratic Party ahead of a nominating convention next Saturday. Troy Jackson's a progressive who narrowly lost the Maine Democratic gubernatorial primary when he was cross-endorsed by Graham Plattner. Plattner withdrew his nomination earlier this month after a former girlfriend accused him of rape. In New York City.
Yeah, and there's a lot of evidence to show it. So we will be having another ad break in about 10 seconds. But it really is like the woman who came out and said this, that she even said in an interview that she was reluctant to come out and say anything because she liked his politics of like how desperate people are for change and not wanting to undermine leftist movements, but why it is so dangerous to be propping up people who claim to be leftists and running them for office rather than having people who come from the working class, the actual working class, and crowdsource so that we can actually get people who are deserving or who will not be abusing their power, abusing other human beings, putting them into power. Because, like, most of the time people have to have a certain amount of money and free time in order to run for office anyway. It just is prohibitive to so many people in the working class who just aren't part of the petit bourgeois. Where I'm at right now, the north-south divide is the perfect wedge. People can understand class dynamics entirely just through the historical analog of the divide. Oh, really? That is interesting. Yeah, I'm interested if you care to expand on that, especially like how you feel like that has been shifting. The fight agency is such a psyop, I swear. He was such an almost purposefully bad candidate, fucking abhorrent person. Yeah, this is, once again, the limits and nefarious nature of electoral politics and just the nature of this system that is inherently oppressive. Of like, it takes some very rare people to not desire power to begin with, and then to abuse power, and then for people to actually want to use power for change and not self-enrichment. Like, I saw a little bit ago, Riz Ahmed did a take on Subway Takes that was like, we should go to, what is it called? Instead of elected politics, we need to have sortition, where people are randomly chosen. And it's like, that would actually be a much better representation if we got an actual simple random sample, which, you know, the forces that be would try to rig that as well. But that we would have more of a representation than what we have ever had in this type of government. Hunger Games style. Yeah. So they really want us to think in the whole state of Maine, the best they could find was an oyster farming rapist, Nazi mercenary. There wasn't some labor organizers or similar. I know, exactly. Exactly. And that's what so many people were saying. Or like, AOC got a lot of hate, and like part of it is her dealing with misogyny and racism from people who claim to be on the left, but people who were like, people, especially white leftists, white men, male leftists who were like, why isn't she endorsing him? That's just like, no, you aren't helping the cause. And it's like, maybe this is why. Maybe this is why. Of like, we can't be thinking that small-mindedly. And like, granted, we're very disempowered with even the options that we have available, but like, there are better people. There are, but a lot of them are just forced to work multiple jobs or are pushed out of jobs and can't find other jobs. You know, like, where people are just so disempowered so that they are not able to get to a point where they can even qualify to run for office. It just really shows how the working class has been fucked over time and time again by electoral politics, and the necessity for labor organizing, tenant organizing, but also for direct action, and making it so that we try to find leverage where we can that is outside of the system, of building these alternative ways of living that broaden our imagination and understanding of what it even means to be human and what it is possible to be living in an equitable society that largely is based on decolonization. That's where I think a lot of white leftists can get hung up on electoral politics sometimes, because they're like, well, this is the system we have. And like, I'll admit, even in my time, especially of like the progression of growing up very conservative in Mormonism and how like drastically my politics and worldview has changed over time, of like me being very invested in electoral politics at times and like being increasingly disillusioned, that like it's also not an accident that like, if you don't feel like the system has fundamentally failed you, you are more likely to believe that it can be reformed in a way that is not inherently oppressive. And I think many people, especially those experiencing multiple intersections of marginalization, are like, this is on stolen land. This is based off of genocide. Like, this is incredibly harmful. Of like, we need to be looking at it from a much larger perspective of reparations and actually doing right by people, and not even, it's like, we need to be like talking about politics and like what people believe and such, but like, one of the most radical things that we can be doing of like deprogramming people is like treating people like people. Like, if we are in a collective of sorts and someone is in need, actually addressing their needs with what they need, like directly, that often is a far more effective way to deprogram people in like understanding human kindness and like having them be treated like a person outside of what some of these beliefs are. That it's like, it makes people realize that like there is a sense of humanity that can be shared. And I mean, I don't claim to say like that's the solution for everything, but like treating people like people has a very radical effect of finding connection and common ground. But once again, it has to be like, if people are even open to it to begin with. And also like, if someone is showing bigoted behavior, that it doesn't mean that like certain people should be putting themselves in harm's way to do that kind of thing. Where I was saying like certain kinds of messengers matter. A lot of white leftists are leftist only on the hyper localized level. They'd like to experience the benefits of a more equitable society where they're at, but never had a second thought outside of their borders. That's a great way of putting it. That's how we get figures deified like Plattner. That also plays into the class reductionism. Yep, they're only interested in material benefits for them. They have no interest in anything that they don't immediately feel the benefit of. Yeah, exactly. Of like, even in some like organizing groups that like I have been a part of like some people claiming to be like Marxist socialists, but also like having no concept of what it means for them to have a sense of privilege, or that like they don't experience the most kinds of harms by like this regime, and them also getting mad at people when they don't show a certain level of enthusiasm for elected politics, when like they put it on themselves to be like very involved in certain things. And I'm like, that's fine, like you can do that, but also like don't expect people to be as involved as you when like you are trying to also impose your view on other people. And that is very dictator-like of like what we're supposed to be fighting, isn't it? Of like actually valuing diversity of thought, like, and like bulldozing people's consent. Like that is a huge red flag. Kind of crazy how it doesn't occur to people that it could be them on the other side of any interaction or scenario. Yeah, exactly. Or even like using their imagination of like, oh, like maybe like even if I would not, because we're living in white supremacy and cis hetero patriarchy, that like there's some people, like especially with what I've seen of like people mostly caring about the environment, particularly in Utah, of like it should be cared about, but also like the fact that your ass is even here is most of the time because of colonization by our ancestors, by Mormon pioneers, so-called like pioneers, and that like we need to grapple with that fact. And like, do you know like that this land has been cared for and like lived in and with in a very symbiotic manner for thousands and thousands of years? The indigenous tribes that are here actually understand how to do this and take care of the environment. We don't need you coming in and saying that like, oh, I have all the answers for this, and also like disregarding that there are people who have many solutions. But like it doesn't help when people just refuse to listen to other kinds of opinions, especially when they view people as being so dissimilar from themselves that it's like such a dehumanizing thing to be doing in the first place, which is like what bigotry even is. But to just completely ignore that there are people who have solutions or have good ideas, and that humility must be exercised, especially for people who want to claim to be leaders. That it's like, do you want to be a leader because you think like you'll look cute on top of a throne, or like you'll get your picture taken, or you want to be noticed, or you want to make it feel like your name means something, that like living a human life, like it wasn't all just for nothing? But it's like, you know what's more meaningful is actually like caring about other human beings. You know what's more meaningful is like actually being able to like share in understanding our humanity and wanting to meet people where they're at and not impose viewpoints on people. That it's like, it's just exhausting. But again, I'm like saying all this, like I probably am coming off as one of these people, and maybe I am exhibiting a lot of these traits and I need to be doing more self-reflecting. I don't think that would hurt any of us. But yeah, it's especially when people who don't feel like they have personally been failed by the system in a substantial way, that they think things can be reformed, and also that there is enough privilege for them to not see or even have the creativity or curiosity be willing to look at viewpoints like that are different than theirs and be like, oh, maybe there is some truth to this type of argument, or maybe it would be helpful if Like, I looked at some of the ills that are happening in society and realized that it is connected, that it's not this isolated incident, because things rarely are. And people are just very used to that type of thinking, especially when it comes to living in colonized societies, like these oppressive systems that are based on colonization, because that is how we are taught history. I keep repeating myself. I don't even know if I'm making sense.
Zoran Mamdani says he's still looking into arresting Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu when he visits New York for the UN General Assembly in September. Mamdani spoke with the New York Times The Interview podcast.
I believe that Prime Minister Netanyahu belongs in The Hague. He's a war criminal who...
Yeah, I'm glad he's saying that. I'm interrupting as I was like, ugh, I'm getting annoyed of hearing my own voice. I saw a video of him going to Rikers and watching some of the World Cup with people who are imprisoned there. And I was excited to see in the video, it was by the Associated Press. I was excited to see that the video, at least from what I saw, actually featured more of the people who are imprisoned there talking and showing their faces, actually hearing their voices, talking about their experiences more than they gave FaceTime to Zoran, because I think that, like, otherwise, like that's the point. Like, we need to be humanizing people. And yet all of the comments were like, this is what Christ would do, like, this is like, and people are going to demonize him. And it's like, okay, it's a good thing that he went there. I think that's great. But the larger issue is that the wider audience is not viewing people who are imprisoned in this place, that they don't have human rights, that a lot of them, most of them, are awaiting trial, and that they haven't even been convicted of things, and that there is a disproportionate representation of people of color, especially Black men, and especially people with disabilities, especially if they are immigrants, and all of those intersections. And how, like, one inmate was saying that he was like, the food that they brought in is really good, but this is not what we normally get. And how, like, that didn't get hardly any attention in the comments. And, like, it's a larger issue. It's not just these systems. I mean, the systems are a huge problem, but, like, people internalizing these systems and being like, well, I have to believe that everyone there is bad, because then I don't have to actually engage with what that means. That it could be anybody that is in there. And that there are people who are there unfairly, or people are driven into circumstances because of these oppressive systems. That's like, we have a lot of work to do, especially people who, like what we've been saying, claim to be leftists, are saying like, oh yeah, we need to have a belief in abolition and not have slave labor, which is what prisons are, and actually view people as human beings. But then when they're like, okay, so we don't have prisons, like, oh, but that means that, like, so many people will be on the loose. And it's like, okay, we do realize that, like, a lot of the people who probably, like, should be locked up somewhere, if we believe in that at all, are never going to be, like, these mass murderers that are billionaires. Like, are we not talking about that? Because it seems to be a class issue. I truly cannot get inside the mind of those kinds of people. Literally everything I see reminds me of these atrocities, especially with any kind of tech, but I guess that is just the final stage of alienation. People have completely stripped the concept of labor from the items and services they use. Yeah, and I think that is also part of the problem of, like, how so much of the work that is being done in the US, like, there is such a substantial amount that is from slave labor, of prison labor, and the slave labor and prison labor abroad, and especially with colonial extraction, how that is always accompanied by that. And, like, how it just is, like, I have had someone I care about be incarcerated, and understanding like, and it was for like associated with substance use disorders, which is like why I even got involved in that work to begin with, because I believed like it had a very big impact on me, and understanding that people should have recovery services, that they shouldn't be criminalized. And how like after like he's had an incredibly hard time getting a job, and it just is, and not to mention like what his experience was while he was there, that it's just like a lot of people that is a death sentence, whether it is in prison or outside of it, and how like people want to believe in like these systems, like even to that degree of like, even if someone is falsely accused of something, but that like the issue is with people rather than the circumstances that people are in, and how classist it all is, of like Elon Musk being a trillionaire, that should be a crime. That should be a crime. He should not be a trillionaire, you know, where it's like there is so much wrong in the world, and people want to just like pick and choose which thing they like, or like which thing they get outraged by. And I know we only have like so much capacity for outrage, and like people are exhausted, and that like focusing too much on it makes it so that we can feel despair, but also understanding that like we have to be addressing things as a whole. Otherwise, what are we doing? Because like you cannot separate the prison industrial complex from what's happening with ICE. Like the same people who are sponsoring these projects they are the same people who are sponsoring these projects and also monetarily benefiting from all of this brutality and dehumanization and just disgusting behavior and action and death that is just like, it cannot be separated from that. And then what is happening abroad. And like, we have to be looking at it as a whole, which is why like what you're talking about, Linton, of like the Zionist inclination of people to be like, well, we want to like address these kinds of issues, but like if you aren't acknowledging like the harm that's being done abroad, like what are we doing? Because like it's not actually helping anyone. It certainly is not helping the people who are in the immediate area of some of these policies, because like it's not helping people largely with what was happening in these policies. Drug policy was one of the first radicalizing contradictions for me. It's so blatant, even a 13-year-old idiot clued in. I know, it's like, and maybe even being younger, it makes you a little more, you can understand it a little more easily. I don't know. Because like I was pretty young, maybe even like around that age, like 12 or 13, when I started like seeing this happen, and like seeing this family member be like in and out of jail, and like stealing money for drugs, and especially growing up in Mormonism, where all of these recovery programs supposedly are like rehab programs, are just based on religion, and how it's not actually meant to be about health. And that was why I was like, oh, maybe I'll work for like a nonprofit helping people recover. And then realizing that like working at the nonprofit, the executive director like gave himself a $60,000 raise when like we couldn't supposedly keep line cooks because of their low wages. Like shit like that, of like being part of like the nonprofit shadow state and being like, that's bad. And working for the government itself and being like, maybe I can change things on the inside. It's like, okay, that's naive. So I can do and say a lot of naive things, believe some naive things, but I think especially now of like just understanding how like we can't be looking at at all of what we experience as separate. Like, if we are talking about and desiring collective liberation, we have to mean that shit and be addressing all of our experiences as a larger human whole. Reading about drugs and crime had me doing crude materialist analysis before I even knew what materialism was. I know. And then being like, how does that make sense? Because it's not like people get the care that they need when they're in jail, when they're in prison, and then they leave. If they leave, then they're extremely traumatized and disempowered, and like that is intentional because it's wanting to keep people as these slaves in the system. That is just a self-perpetuating issue. It's like it's functioning as it was built to function. And I think like seeing that's so interesting. You say that we have like that in common of like seeing drugs and like things be criminalized, and also people dealing with disorders that are extremely based on like, it's just based on people's health. It's not supposed to be criminalized or viewed as immoral. And how like that is not the answer. That maybe also was like a very significant factor in like me having doubts in Mormonism, of seeing how like, oh, it doesn't just help if you like pray or if you say someone is evil. Like, how does that help them? And like they still have to exist. So like, what does that mean? And it's not enough to just be like, well, we're satisfied with like you being away, like you've done. And then if you believe in the power of redemption, then like, how is it that isn't offered for certain people of like if they are in prison? And then you're like, well, they just need to work hard. Of like, okay, of like having to engage in all of that bullshit from a young age, I think was also a very radicalizing thing. I mean, did it like really radicalize me at the time? I don't know, but I think it like planted some of those seeds at least. Like looking back, the arguments I was making were staunchly Marxist. It just goes to show how a lot of the prescriptions in Marxism are just inherent as long as you bother looking. Yeah, it's true. Of like engaging in the material world and looking at how like when we are in global capitalism, everything is commodified, including people's health and well-being and their labor and their humanity, that like you sell people's rights in order for them to be imprisoned. In that like especially in Utah, like when a lot of this was happening, like it wasn't an isolated incident of like this happening in my family, of like people developing opiate addictions, of like that was happening all over the nation, that was happening all over the world, but like it was happening a lot in Utah, of people getting surgeries or like family members developing an opiate addiction, and then like their kids developing opiate addictions because of these opiates that were prescribed after medical procedures. That's like, okay, so like how then, like how you brought up Linton a bit ago, of like the decolonizing methodologies, that book of like, so we're supposed to trust our healthcare practitioners. It's like, okay, but what if they are prescribing you like an equivalent to heroin? So like when they were saying like, don't do drugs, kids, they were talking to us about like weed and cocaine and meth, but they were not really talking to us about heroin. I mean, maybe like lightly talking about it. They were not talking about like pills, at least when I was growing up. And so it's like that was more of a gateway of like people like getting a necessary procedure, and that they were prescribed medication that they then got addicted to, and that like it then made it so like their kids were more likely to develop these types of addictions as well. Hello, Bunso. Welcome. Doing all right. We're going over headlines, so this naturally makes me heated. We were just talking about yay headlines. I know. How are you doing? I was just mentioning this video of Zoran visiting, so he's the mayor of New York City. He visited Rikers Island, where there is a very large prison that is known for its human rights abuses. I mean, all prisons do have these, but that the video even featured people who were imprisoned there, like actually speaking, like showing their faces, actually like having interactions with the interviewer and stuff. And like, I loved that, and like seeing people be humanized more. But that, like, looking at the comments, all of the comments for the most part were like, oh, this is so Christ-like of the mayor. Like, this is so incredible. Like, thank you, mayor. And it's like, yeah, that is great. But also, like, it's a problem that human beings, like, are not being viewed as human beings, or like wanting to be like, wow, we need to have changes in this system that people are talking about in these interviews. One of the 5 books I ordered for $250 in total came. Wow. The Art of Guerrilla. Ooh, that sounds cool. I love that. Yeah, you'll have to have you already read these books? I ordered for $250. Like, you ordered 250 books? This is the second edition. Or $250. I guess you don't have to say if you aren't comfortable. And I'm probably just misunderstanding. I feel like my brain is fried on a Monday. Okay. Yeah, I guess that makes a lot more sense than what Books are expensive, man. The book's called Fry the Brain. Oh! Uh-oh, don't make me believe I'm clairvoyant, because I already kind of think that sometimes. They are expensive. Yeah. I know, and they just get more and more expensive. That is very cool, though. Okay. Shall we finish this? You're clairvoyant. Oh no. Now I'm gonna believe it. Although there are some times that when like things happen that I'm like, I thought that was true. Or maybe it's just like reading people. I think I can get a decent read on people. But now that I'm saying that, I'm gonna be like majorly proven wrong or something. Anyway.
Has been charged by the International Criminal Court. And what you will find is that...
He's talking about arresting Satan Yahoo. Phone's gonna die. Thanks for being here. It was good seeing you.
An opinion that is held by many purely because of what his actions have wrought over these last many years. I've also said that I will follow the laws that we have here in New York City because I believe that there's an importance in following the law as a leader who presides over our city, and that's something that I plan to do.
Meaning? I'm sorry, I don't understand what that means.
Meaning that whatever the law allows me to do in New York City, that's what we will do, but we won't be writing our own laws to that end.
New York City Mayor Zoran Mamdani. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Thanks for watching Democracy Now! On YouTube. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to make sure you never miss a video. And for more of our audience-supported journalism, go to democracynow.org, where you can download our news app, sign up for our newsletter, subscribe to the daily podcast, and so much more.
Thanks, Amy. Okay. It's good to know the news, but yeah, it is depressing. So this is something that I wanted to show as we were talking about that detention center, that concentration camp, because that's what it is, that was being called Alligator Alcatraz, that it was closed because of the work of Native people. And this tribe in particular, the Miccosukee Tribe. This is an I'm a Virgo. I didn't tell you. I started watching that over the weekend. It is so good. It is so good. Just like, okay, let's go through the mental exercise, what it would be like for a 13-foot black man to be existing in this world, and what that would mean of just like all of the little details of like his clothes, of him not being able to find clothes, of like them having to make them, and yeah. I also don't want to reveal too much yet. Did you get through ep 4 yet? No, I think I stopped at the end of 3. I should watch episode 4 tonight. Is that one of the best ones? Okay. You get to hear Joan speak.
Excuse me.
Jones.
Okay, yeah, this is episode 4.
Thank you for being here with me.
What did you expect, Gross? Am I gonna be...
Where your ass been? Jones, this can't happen, right? I mean, he's human. They can't just need somebody to, like, die. It doesn't make sense.
Someone needs to get up there now.
Jones.
I'm gonna answer you up there.
My boy Cootie right here just asked how the could something like this happen? Exactly. This wasn't an accident. It's no accident. When Crown turns poor people away to die just so they make a profit. And the same forces that kill Scat are trying to get us too. Let me break it down a little bit. There is a phenomenon called the crisis of capitalism. Under capitalism, businesses combine labor and materials to create goods or services for sale. Each year, they must make more money.
This is so Boots Riley to do, to like break down the theory in a very visually pleasing but practical way. I wonder if he's a Virgo. I need to look that up.
Last to compete or else be crushed by competitors. They do this by lowering wages and raising prices. Now those workers have less money to buy the products with and the company loses money. How do they fix that situation? By again lowering wages and raising prices. It's a downward spiral during which we have large numbers of people who can't afford many of the goods that the economic system produces. Private HMO-run hospitals like Crown are no different. Crown is nothing but a network of boxes with the purpose of sending cash to its owners. To get cash out of those boxes, they sell health as their product. We get sold the idea that hospitals are there with the primary purpose of helping people. But the crisis of capitalism compels them to raise their prices while people's overall wages are lowered. So people can't afford it and get turned away. In cases like Scats, they die. It's why our developers and real estate companies have rents go up as wages go down, pushing people into the street. It's why our power company shuts our lights off regularly instead of buying from neighboring regions or spending money on upgrades. The power company, the real estate developers, and Crown have the same group of owners who are also investors in much of the industry in the Bay Area.
Yep.
Our power comes from the fact that we are the ones that create that profit. all of these problems all have the same immediate solution. We shut everything down.
There's a good scene in this, in Isle of Boosters. Yep. It breaks down dialectics and dialectical materialism in a way that I think is genius.
Force their hand. It's all connected, and that's how we have to fight it. We give them a choice. Cede to our demands and make less profit, or we shut you down and you make no profit.
Did you see that? Shh.
Just listen.
I love the fact with her episode of describing like being very fast, how she's very fast, of like that is how so many Black women feel, of like feeling like they're ahead of the curve with so many things, having to work twice as hard, having to like understand things that other people are just coming to understand, where she has to like slow down her speech for her parents, slow down her speech for the entire world. That is just like that symbolism too. It just is so good.
Wait, Jones. What was that?
I was just laying it out clearly.
No, it was like a psychic theater.
Brought a noise cannon! I can't talk about this right now. But I'm glad you're here.
It wasn't
Just
just a
stay close.
speech, though. Joan. This was in Scott's pocket when he died. It's probably for you.
Let me get something for you, alright?
That he
Watch
didn't
whatever
get to
happens.
see that episode of the show. Yep. Ooh. It's so good. Yeah. I'm not sure if it's intentional, but there was something I noticed when speaking about her character out loud. Saying she's fast might be the double meaning of the stereotype. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I didn't catch that. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, or even like in that episode where he goes, he's like, I think it's cool you're so fat. And then like while he's saying that, it's like her whole life. We get her whole life story, and then like that part is probably playing with that stereotype as well. Their courtship is amazing. I love it. Just the whole story is so good. Or like the so-called like artists, and having him be in these displays that show him being this terrorizing Black man and like terrorizing white people specifically. That's like, yeah, this is something that we could definitely see happening if there was a 13-foot Black man that people are wanting to exploit him in every way possible to justify their worldviews. Okay. I want to show this and then we can get into the reading. But, yeah, the Miccosukee Tribe in Florida, I mean, in Turtle Island, really, they were instrumental in shutting down this concentration camp. This is by Native News Online. Warrior journalism defending tribal sovereignty. Florida officials announced the closure of Alligator Alcatraz on June 25, 2026, when Governor Ron DeSantis said the immigration detention facility, concentration camp, had fulfilled the role it was designed to serve and would cease operations. The following statement from Judith LeBlanc, Caddo, Executive Director of Native Organizers Alliance. The federal government, with the support of the state of Florida, constructed and operated Alligator Alcatraz in violation of the sovereign rights of the Miccosukee Tribe, who took the government to court for illegally constructing the center without their consultation or consent. Yeah, remember how we have been talking about, like, you can't separate everything that's going on as, like, continued colonization and the stealing of native land. As Native peoples, hi, Teeny. Hi. Come here. She's very chatty. As Native peoples, we have a sacred obligation passed down from our ancestors to care for the land and everyone who depends on it. The construction of the detention center in Florida was on the ancestral lands of the Miccosukee Tribe. The buildings endangered delicate and protected ecosystems. Alligator Alcatraz put thousands of immigrants at risk, not to mention hundreds of people that just went, quote-unquote, missing. The buildings... Oh, wait, I already read that. The reported filthy and unsafe conditions were a violation of the human rights of immigrants and their families. The administration's violent crackdown on migrant communities is an affront to all we stand for as Native peoples. We are opposed to any government operation that violates the human rights of our neighbors and all who reside on this land. As we saw in Minneapolis earlier this year, ICE operations operate with little to no oversight or safeguards, acting illegally in many cases. Multiple people, including babies, have died in, yes, or as a result of, ICE custody. This must end. The closure of Alligator Alcatraz is a victory for human rights and tribal sovereignty, but we want to see an end to all inhumane and unlawful detention of our neighbors who are simply trying to live, work, and raise families. Yeah. We are not seeing this in the mainstream news, that this was shut down, besides DeSantis saying it served its purpose, which is disgusting, but also that it is a win for Native sovereignty, as well as pushing back against this colonial violence, which can't be separated from Native sovereignty. Okay, maybe I'll actually show this. This post because it is related. Little ray of sunshine during this hellstorm. Yeah. Actually, maybe I'll save this tomorrow. I keep going back and forth. Yeah. It's like these are the things, and then we realize, like, how much actually goes on of good stuff that people are doing that we just don't even know about. Because it doesn't really get clicks, because it's actively being suppressed by algorithms or not picked up by news outlets, so-called news. Okay. So, shall we read Othello? Get into that? I think tomorrow I'll be able to start around 3 Mountain Time. I'll also send a notification in the Discord. Still figuring out Carl bot and shit. But it is a process, but I'm working on it. We have to celebrate these little things. in my mind, getting it back up and active is also, and also not creating a new one is a way to stick it to fascists. All right, so I washed these gloves. I had so much cat hair on them because I still will pet the cats with these on. It's probably not the best course of action, but I can't help it. Okay, so we left off with let's see, I don't think Iago came in yet. Yes. So, Emilia, so in this scene, so we're in the middle of scene 2 of Act 5. The gloves are iconic. Thank you. They're practical and also sassy. That's my favorite kind of combination. That's how I feel about my fan as well. Practical and sassy, you say? That's my favorite combination. I don't know where I put it. I should find that. Okay, so in this scene of scene 2, Act 5, Othello ended up murdering Desdemona. He thought, so they had an argument at first where he was confronting her and saying you were unfaithful. She said no, she wasn't, and then he ended up strangling her. He thought that she died, and then Emilia, her lady-in-waiting, who is also the wife of Iago, she came in and was like, you murdered her, and then she heard Desdemona speak, so she hadn't died quite yet, and then Desdemona chose not to blame Othello, which is to make it so Desdemona is this sort of sanctified character, and Emilia is upset. Okay, and so, I'll go back a little bit just to get more information here. So Othello is saying that Iago, who is Emilia's husband, told him about Desdemona and Cassio having an affair. My husband, Emilia says. Othello, aye, 'twas he that told me on her first. An honest man he is, and hates the slime that sticks on filthy deeds. My husband? What needs this iterance? Woman, I say thy husband. O mistress, villainy hath made mocks with love. My husband say she was false. We had a footnote, but we don't need to read that. Othello, he, woman, I say thy husband, dost understand the word? My friend, thy husband, honest, Iago? Emilia, if he say so, may his pernicious soul rot half a grain a day. He lies to the heart. She was too fond of her most filthy bargain. So that's racist of her saying that, and also Emilia is mad that Othello killed Desdemona, so calling their marriage filthy, but she was also referring to it as such even before his behavior towards Desdemona that was under false pretenses of Iago's lies. Othello, huh? Emilia, do thy worst. This deed of thine is no more worthy of heaven than thou wast worthy of her. Peace, you were best. Saying it would be best for you to be quiet. Emilia, thou hast not half that power to do me harm as I have to be hurt. O gull, meaning fool, O dolt, as ignorant as dirt, thou hast done a deed. I care not for thy sword. I'll make thee known, though I lost 20 lives. Help! Help! Oh! Help! The Moor hath killed my mistress! Murder! Murder! Enter Montano and Graziano and Iago. Montano? 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 I think it's Montano. Do I remember his voice? I think it was high-pitched and nasally. What is the matter? How now, General? Oh, are you come, Iago? You have done well, that men must lay their murders on your neck. Graciano. Let's see. Trying to remember his voice. I think I did it like a Voldemort type. What is the matter? Emilia to Iago. Disprove this villain if thou beest a man. He says thou'st told him that his wife was false. I know thou didst not. Thou art not such a villain. Speak, for my heart is full. I told him what I thought, and told no more than what he found himself was apt and true. But did you ever tell him she was false? I did. You told a lie, an odious, damned lie. Upon my soul, a lie, a wicked lie. She, false with Cassio? Did you say with Cassio? With Cassio, mistress, go to charm your tongue. Same, silence your tongue. I will not charm my tongue. I am bound to speak. My mistress here lies murdered in her bed. Okay, another one that's like, these lines don't appear in the quarto, which is Shakespeare nerdy shit, because they're different versions of Shakespeare. That's what that other footnote was that I skipped. For those who are interested. Montano and Graciano. Oh, heavens forfend! Emilia to Iago. And your reports have set the murder on? Othello. Nay, stare not, masters. It is true indeed. 'Tis a strange truth. Oh, monstrous act! Villainy, villainy, villainy! I think upon it. I smell it. Oh, villainy! I thought so then. I'll kill myself for grief. Oh, villainy, villainy! What, are you mad? I charge you get home. Good gentlemen, let me have leave to speak. 'Tis proper I obey him, but not now. Perchance, Iago, I'll ne'er go home. So this is where we see Emilia, she is standing up for Desdemona. It would have been nice if she had done so earlier, or like not obeyed Iago by stealing the handkerchief to begin with. But again, we also think Emilia is in this abusive marriage because Iago is a complete asshole. So it is time where she's actually saying, like, it's not proper for me to be speaking this way as a woman, but here I am speaking. So, like, there is that more feminist lean that is nice to see, you know, a little bit of too little too late, but also her having to break down these own structures that she is dealing with. Also, I wanted to mention that there is, I think Othello can lend itself to a more feminist reading. It doesn't necessarily mean that was always the intent of Shakespeare, but Desdemona, rather than it being viewed, if we take the lens of Desdemona not being punished for her freedom, but rather that Othello buying into these systems of oppression like racism and patriarchy and wanting to gain favor of the court rather than like trusting his wife, which was what made their marriage and relationship so beautiful to begin with, is that they were willing to like overthrow convention in order to be together. That like rather than viewing that as a negative thing, that it was like him internalizing these things was his downfall and what ended up making it so Desdemona was killed. And that Desdemona, when she was freest and on equal ground, that with Othello, that is when they were happiest and when they were able to like provide a united front against these systems of oppression. Thank you, Bunso. Watch streak. 15 stream streak? Thank you very much. Love. I'm on a trip next week. Found a leftist bookshop, so best believe I'm gonna be coming back with a library. Yes! They better not weigh my carry-on. Oh, that's my mistake. I bring a lot of books whenever I travel, and that's not smart. Because it, like, weighs everything down. Rolling RN. Nice! It's that time of day. Yeah, you'll have to let us know what books you get. I'm very curious. The little dancing dinos. Got me a roach left. Oh. Well, I mean, where you're going, you may be able to get more. Gotta hit the re-up. Yeah. It really is so helpful in surviving the world. Look at this community support. Okay. We do have an ad that is going. Weed equals mutual aid. I think so. I think so. Okay, what will help us survive? Roach is weed. That's a good question. A roach is like, no, you're good. A roach is like the very, like, end of a joint. Like the last part of a joint. Yeah. Okay, where did I leave off? Oh yeah, Amelia being badass, speaking out against what's happening. So she's mad enough that she was like, if you cause this, Iago, I'm never gonna go home. Othello. Oh. So he's realizing that he's been deceived after killing his wife. Emilia. Nay, lay thee down and roar, for thou hast killed the sweetest innocent that e'er did lift up eye, meaning to heaven. Othello rising. Oh, she was foul. To Graciano. I scarce did know you, uncle. There lies your niece, whose breath indeed these hands have newly stopped. I know this act shows horrible and grim. Graciano. Poor Desdemone, I am glad thy father's dead. Thy match was mortal to him, and pure grief. Okay. So because she married a black man, her dad, they're saying, died of grief, which is just racist and absurd. It's like some Tony Soprano shit. Tore his old thread in twain. Did he live now, this sight would make him do a desperate turn. Yea, curse his better angel from his side, and fall to reprobance. So he was like, if he saw this now, this isn't a footnote, he would die by suicide, because he would be so despairing. Othello. 'Tis pitiful, but yet Iago knows that she with Cassio hath the act of shame 1,000 times committed. Cassio confessed it, and she did gratify his amorous works with that recognizance and pledge of love, which I first gave her. I saw it in his hand. It was a handkerchief, an antique token my father gave my mother. Emilia. Oh God, oh heavenly God. Because she realizes that she's the one that took it. Iago. Swounds, hold your peace. Because he's like, she's gonna reveal it. Uh-oh. Emilia. Twill out. I, peace? No, I will speak as liberal as the North. Let heaven and men and devils, let 'em all cry shame against me, yet I'll speak. So she's realizing that she had a hand in this, and that she's still going to be speaking out. If only this kind of behavior was shown by most of the characters. Okay. Iago, be wise and get you home. I will not. Iago draws his sword. Graciano to Iago. Fie, your sword upon a woman? O thou dull Moor, that handkerchief thou speakest of, I found by fortune and did give my husband, for often with a solemn earnestness, more than indeed belonged to such a trifle, he begged of me to steal it. Iago, villainous whore! Emilia, she give it to Cassio? No, alas, I found it, and I did give it my husband. Filth, thou liest, says Iago. By heaven, I do not, gentlemen. O murderous coxcomb, meaning a fool. What should such a fool do with so good a wife? So she's continuing to blame Othello of, like, you foolish person, like, I stole it. But also, like, Emilia, you also are involved in this. You also hold some blame. Othello, are there no stones in heaven? But what serves for thunder? Precious villain! Meaning absolute. The Moor runs at Iago. He's pissed. Montano disarms Othello. Iago wounds his wife. Yeah, Iago is abusive. We've known this about him. Graciano, the woman falls. Sure, he hath killed his wife. Emilia, oh, lay me by my mistress's side. Exit Iago. So he just runs away because he's a coward, as usual. Graciano, he's gone, but his wife's killed. Montano, 'tis a notorious villain. Take you this weapon which I have here recovered from the Moor. Come, guard the door without, let him not pass, but kill him rather. All after that same villain, for 'tis a damned slave. Exit Montano and Graciano. So they're going to chase Iago. Othello, I am not valiant neither, but every puny whipster gets my sword, meaning insignificant person. So again, now we're seeing him like descend into this state of just all-encompassing violence. Of the weed. Genuinely in climates that support it. People should just be scattering. I agree. Yeah. Let that be available. But what about the monetization? Not capitalists losing money. But every puny whipster gets my sword. But why should honor outlive honesty? Let it go, all. Footnote. Why should military reputation outlive integrity? So he's like, I don't care about my military reputation if I killed my wife. Emilia. What did thy song bode, lady? Hark, canst thou hear me? I will play the swan and die in music. Willow, willow, willow. More she was chaste. Because that was the song Desdemona sang before she died. She loved thee, cruel Moor. So again, she doesn't call him Othello, but just calls him the Moor. So Emilia has already shown that she's racist. So come my soul to bliss as I speak true, so speaking as I think. Alas, I die. She dies. That's the stage direction. Othello, I have another weapon in this chamber. It was a sword of Spain, the ice brook's temper, meaning tempered in icy water. Oh, here it is. Uncle, I must come forth. Graciano within. If thou attempt it, it will cost thee dear. Thou hast no weapon, and perforce must suffer. Look in upon me, then, and speak with me, or naked as I am, I will assault thee, meaning unarmed. Enter Graciano. What is the matter? Wait, no. What is the matter? Behold, I have a weapon, A better never did itself sustain upon a soldier's thigh. I've seen the day that, with this little arm and this good sword, I've made my way through more impediments than 20 times your stop. But oh, vain boast! Who can control his fate? 'Tis not so now. Be not afraid, though you do see me weaponed. Here is my journey's end. Here is my butt and my very sea-mark of my utmost sail. So, when he's saying his butt, it's referring to, like, part of a boat. Do you go back dismayed? 'Tis a lost fear. Man but a rush against Othello's breast, and he retires. Where should Othello go? So he's like, where can I go after this? What's left for me? To Desdemona. Now, how dost thou look now? O ill-starred wench, pale as thy smock. So once again, viewing her whiteness in proximity to purity. When we shall meet at count, this look of thine will hurl my soul from heaven, and fiends will snatch at it. So he said, when we meet at Judgment Day. Cold, cold, my girl, even like thy chastity. Oh, cursed, cursed slave. So he's calling himself a slave. This cannot be separated from his racialization in the story. Whip me, ye devils, from the possession of this heavenly sight. Blow me about in winds, roast me in sulphur, wash me in the steep down gulfs of liquid fire. Oh, Desdemone, dead, Desdemone, dead. Oh, oh. Enter Lodovico, Montano, Iago, guarded by officers with Cassio in a chair. So Cassio is still alive. Lodovico, where's this rash and most unfortunate gentleman? That's he that was Othello. Here I am. Where's that viper? Bring forth the villain. Bring the villain forth. I look down towards his feet, but that's a fable. So he's looking for the devil's cloven feet on Iago. If thou beest a devil, I cannot kill thee. He wounds Iago. Lodovico, wrench his sword from him. Officers disarm Othello. What? They're probably like, oh, he needs a trial. Like, no, how about the asshole just dies? That would be cool. Iago, I bleed, sir, but not killed. Othello, I am not sorry neither. I'd have thee live, for in my sense 'tis happiness to die. Lodovico, O thou Othello that was once so good, fallen in the practice of a cursed slave, what shall be said to thee? Once again, this is very racist. Othello, why anything, an honorable murderer, if you will, for naught I didn't hate, but all in honor. Lodovico, this wretch hath part confessed his villainy. Did you and he consent in Cassio's death? Aye. Dear General, I never gave you cause. That's Cassio. Othello, I do believe it, and I ask your pardon. Will you, I pray, demand that demi-devil why he hath thus ensnared my soul and body? Iago, demand me nothing. What you know, you know. From this time forth I will never speak a word. Yeah, thank God. We would all love that. Lodovico to Iago. What, not to pray? Graciano to Iago. Torments will ope your lips. Meaning tortures will open your lips. Damn. I mean, he does deserve it. Othello. Well, thou dost best. Lodovico. Sir, you shall understand what hath befallen, which as I think you know not. Here is a letter, found in the pocket of the slain Roderigo, and here is another. The one of them imports the death of Cassio to be undertook by Roderigo. Othello. Oh, villain! Cassio. Most heathenish and most gross! Meaning monstrous. Lodovico. Now here's another discontented paper found in his pocket too. In this it seems Roderigo meant to have sent this damned villain, but that belike Iago in the interim came in and satisfied him. if we are having a queer reading of this with like being satisfied, also having like orgasms be associated with death, that could also be read very queerly. Othello to Iago. O thou pernicious caitiff, meaning wretch, how came you, Cassio, by that handkerchief? That was my wife's. Cassio. I found it in my chamber, and he himself confessed it. But even now, that there he dropped it for a special purpose, which wrought to his desire. Othello. Oh, fool, fool, fool. Cassio. There's besides in Roderigo's letter how he upbraids Iago, that he made him brave me upon the watch, whereon it came that I was cast. And even but now he spake, after long seeming dead, Iago hurt him, Iago set him on. So the letter is from Roderigo, who ran away because he was like, fuck this. he ended up surviving. Wait, did he actually die? Oh, but Roderigo, before he died, was writing a letter that he was going to give to Cassio. Lodovico to Othello. You must forsake this room and go with us. Your power and your command is taken off, and Cassio rules in Cyprus. For this slave, if there be any cunning cruelty that can torment him much and hold him long, it shall be his. So, again, referring to him as a slave, they are overtly racializing him. This is incredibly racist. But, well, I guess we'll get to the end and then talk about that. You shall close, prisoner, rest, till that the nature of your fault be known to the Venetian state. To officers. Come, bring away. Othello. Soft you, meaning wait, a word or two before you go. I have done the state some service, and they know it. No more of that. I pray you, in your letters, when you shall these unlucky deeds relate, speak of me as I am, nothing extenuate, nor set down aught in malice. Then must you speak of one that loved not wisely, but too well. So that's a famous line of loving not wisely, but too well. Of one not easily jealous, but being wrought, perplexed in the extreme, of one whose hand, like the base Indian, threw a pearl away. Okay, so, racist, clearly. They're saying this about, like, India, people from India, as if, Indian people were not colonized, or there have not been all of these forces looking for colonial extraction. Richer than all his tribe, of one whose subdued eyes. Well, also, it may be talking about native people in the Americas, because first I was like, wait, was Shakespeare in the 1400s? No, he's in the 1600s, so that was when Columbus had already been there. So talking about native people in this way, as if they're like willingly throwing away precious stones and not being subject to ethnic cleansing and genocide. 4% Life, welcome back. My very own carton of cigarettes. Native cigarettes too, I love that. Ooh, looking at more books. Gramsci or Jakarta method. Those are great options. I need to read more Gramsci. Albeit unused to the melting mood, drops tears as fast as the Arabian trees, their medicinable gum, myrrh. Set you down this, and say besides that in Aleppo once, where a malignant and turbaned Turk beat a Venetian and traduced the state, I took by the throat the circumcised dog and smote him thus. He stabs himself. So there's a bunch of racialized language, a lot of colonized perceptions of colonized people in his speech, which goes to show that if we're taking a decolonizing lens, that was his downfall of like buying into these colonized systems. Lodovico. Oh, bloody period! Meaning conclusion, sentence. Graciano. All that is spoke is marred. Othello to Desdemona. I kissed thee ere I killed thee. No way but this, killing myself to die upon a kiss. He kisses Desdemona and dies. We have a footnote. The dying Emilia says, "O lay me by my mistress's side." She then addresses Desdemona in a way that suggests that her wish has been granted. If it has, however, the presence of her body intrudes upon the concluding tableau of the dead Desdemona being kissed by the dying Othello, where die, in the line 369, as earlier, has a secondary sense of orgasm. Or maybe they would have liked to be polyamorous. There's also that. Okay, we have an ad in 10 seconds. Just as a heads up. Cassio. This I did fear, but thought he had no weapon, for he was great of heart. Lodovico to Iago. O Spartan dog. Meaning notoriously savage. So even the word savage, not even, but especially that word has been used to justify colonization, genocide, ethnic cleansing, particularly of indigenous people. More fell than anguish, hunger or the sea. Fell meaning cruel. Look on the tragic loading of this bed. This is thy work, the object poisons sight. Let it be hid. They close the bed curtains. Graciano, keep the house, and seize upon the fortunes of the Moor, for they succeed on you. So again, not calling him by his name, Othello. To you, Lord Governor, remains the censure of this hellish villain, the time, the place, the torture. Oh, enforce it, meaning of Iago. Myself will straight aboard, and to the state this heavy act with heavy heart relate. Exeunt with Emilia's body. Okay. So, it's a tragic ending. I think we can say, like, I mean, Othello is not, like, his character is very flattened, as we have talked about before, of him not being treated like a real person. Often his behavior, it does not make a lot of sense. And perhaps we can take the reading of, he was only able to, well, not only, but like he was able to survive in this world by resisting the oppressive forces that were racializing him and were also oppressing Desdemona, even though they both had class on their side. And that it was his downfall by believing Iago and buying into these systems of like believing that he, believing what people were saying about him rather than like standing in his own worth and truth. And that Iago used these systems that already existed to turn people against one another. And, how this also is true for Desdemona, how when she was independent, or more independent, I guess, as she could be in this type of patriarchal situation, that like when they were genuinely resisting the forces that be, these oppressive powers, that they were able to succeed when they showed a united front. But how also, like, some people may take, like, and during Shakespeare's time especially, and like many portrayals over time, have taken the perspective that because they were too they were being too resistant to the system, and that they view that as a bad thing, and that they should have conformed more or just like not been married to begin with. And that was like this interracial marriage that was cursed from the beginning. But the evidence shows that like they were able to effectively be like more liberated in standing by one another, standing up for their own humanity. Also, there is a lot of queerness happening here, of like Emilia possibly being in love with Desdemona, and how like Iago possibly wanting Othello. I don't think he loved him, but being jealous of Othello and wanting to take his revenge of like, if I can't have him, then nobody can, which is like the rationalization that Othello gave when he thought that Desdemona was unfaithful, of like, if I can't have her, then nobody can. I'm saving her from men, or saving men from her. So it's like this internalization of this patriarchal, colonial, white supremacist violence, and how it only took, like, Iago's not that smart. It just took someone who is willing to, like, not have any sort of integrity or loyalty to, like, pit people against each other, and how easily he was able to use those systems for nefarious ends. So that's my take on Othello. There we go. I know you mentioned, Linton, you gave the recommendation of Worker Bees, that book. I do want to read that. I need to go get that. But in the interest of still having a book to read for tomorrow, I think I will start reading Agnes Grey, which is by Anne Bronte. Getting back to the Brontes. Just to, because I haven't read that before, I am interested in reading it, also coming from a decolonizing lens, and then read that other book next. What was that one called again? I have that written. Or it's on my resource page. Love of Worker Bees. Yeah, I'm going to be buying that next, but I still need to get it. But I do have Agnes Grey already. The coffee shop. Yes, that's where you find things. Yeah, and then people are just inside. But yeah, there is like windows open and stuff. I hope you have a great time. I hope you travel safely. You're able to stock up on some fun things, some extracurriculars as well. Okay. Shall we do a raid? I did see that Androgynous Water is on. I think they're still on. Oh, what? Wish I could stock up. Oh, I guess that's true. Of like traveling. And I don't know how to do this without the browser. I don't know why it's not pulling it up for me for some reason. Oh wait, here we go. Okay. Let's do a raid. Dee, 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 dee. Thank you all for being here. It was lovely being with you. I hope you have a good rest of your day, evening, wherever you are. And I'll see you soon.